I don't really know where to start off, but I want to start off by saying that I was not born into a Christian family, which doesn't make me love my family any less, but that made it so for most of my life I was not a Christian. I lived most of my life in Canada, and 3 years ago I moved to Japan. Even though I lived in Canada, I was never exposed to Christianity. When I moved to Japan, I had to get used to a completely different way of living, and at first it was really hard for me. It was also a time where everyone had to wear masks. During this time, I was also going into high school, and I chose to go to a school that was basically all in Japanese. Getting used to this school life became very hard for me, and I struggled with anxiety quite badly. This ended up turning into a health issue, and I had trouble going to school. My only friend who spoke English also left for Canada during this time, so I had no friends. I felt like I couldn't fit in and be normal like everyone else. I was at the lowest point in my life, and I felt very insecure and ashamed of many things about myself. This is when I started getting into New Age with things like tarot cards and subliminal messaging because I thought it would heal me, and I occasionally listened to gurus. This only worsened my mental health. Then one day I was on the train going home from school, and I didn't want to keep going anymore. So I searched what to do when you want to give up on life, because I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live either. Then I saw a website that had hundreds of testimonies of people who had been saved by God. Then later on again, I saw a video about God on my YouTube feed, and I decided to watch it. These videos gave me a great sense of hope that God would save me from my suffering, and so I watched these videos every single night. Although I watched these videos, I still didn't know much about God, and so one night I prayed a prayer that was, looking back, quite disrespectful. In this prayer, I didn't acknowledge Jesus, and I wasn't respecting God. And when I woke up the next day, I found that my uncle had a brain injury and he was in a coma. Although it might have not been my fault, during that time I felt like this happened because of me, because my uncle was still young and he had no previous health problems before. That night is when I think I actually went to God on my hands and knees and prayed for help and for God to forgive me. Each day I prayed like this, and when I prayed, I felt a rush come over my body, and I felt this peace and love that I had never experienced before. Then 3 days later, my uncle came out of his coma and started to heal. From that time on, I continued to pray like this to God. As I prayed more, I started to feel His presence so strongly, I felt like I had been satisfied in every single way just by being in His presence. As I continued to pray, I was curious about what kind of existence God was, and if there was a certain religion that God wanted me to be in. So I prayed to God to reveal to me the truth. And after that, God showed me that the truth is Jesus. It took a long time for me to realize why it was Jesus. But then I started reading the Bible because there was a strong desire in my heart. And I started to read the book of John and fell in love with it. And there I read 1 John 2, verse 23. And it says, "Whoever denies the Son does not have the Father either. And he who acknowledges the Son has the Father also." And that is when I realized that I need to accept Jesus if I want to be on right terms with God. After this, I was shown so many more things that revealed Jesus to me, and I realized that without Jesus, I have no hope. I also realized that Jesus coming to this earth was the greatest act of love from God to us, and that Jesus died individually for each and every person, and even for me. After accepting Jesus as my Lord, things completely changed in my life, and God saved me from my suffering, and I had joy, love, and peace. A couple months ago, I felt God leading me to start opening up again and to be in community. That is how I started coming to New Hope, and now I'm going to get baptized, which me 1 year ago wouldn't probably have never believed would happen. There are many things I didn't include in this story, which God has done for me, but I hope that through my testimony, God may be glorified, and it may encourage the people listening today.